Well, this is fun.
Problem solved.
Problem solved, he says.
Remember, it's black at first.
Is it always?
Huh?
Is it always black at first?
Yeah.
Oh. Say remember, I don't remember that.
I told you last time, because last time it was black too. And the time before.
How long does it take for it to actually show anything?
Till you click on it.
I'm in the house. I gotta go get my stuff.
That makes more sense. Okay.
So we're gonna wait the solid 5 minutes before we Sorry.
You know what? Why not? I don't see any problem with it. Good. Oh, this feels great. This chair is actually very comfy. Oh my god.
If you fall asleep, I'm not gonna be very happy.
I'm gonna doze if anything, but this is so comfortable. Oh. This is so comfortable. These chairs are amazing. Well, think about it. I may want a chair like this. Maybe not with this pattern, but definitely a chair like it. Also, it reclines too, which is amazing.
That's fair.
I love that. Do you have your Bible on you?
I have my Bible in my ear.
You have the word in your heart.
Boom. And it was already at Ruth 1.
Beautiful. Love that for
We're
us.
on Ruth 3.
Yep.
It's our current subscriber. Guess how many we have?
I can see it.
716. 39 in the last 20 days.
Oh, nice.
28 days, I mean. That's pretty epic. Pretty epic.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
I love the thumbnail we have.
Yeah, I love it too.
2 concurrent viewers.
Wait. If 2 concurrent viewers, then. Oh.
It says 2 right there, but it also says 1 right there. So I don't know. I don't actually know.
If you're out there, comment in the section so then we can understand who's here.
Did you say comment in the section? If you're out there, comment in the section. The comment section.
Comment in the section. Why do I need to say comment twice? Oh. It went from 2 to 1.
Yes.
Well.
Figure ratio.
Cool.
Alright, you ready to transition? We're only at 3 minutes.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even care.
Okay.
Here we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of The Basement. I'm Tristan. This is my wonderful co-host.
I'm Ezra.
And today is episode 8. And I believe it's a continuation of our reading of Ruth.
You believe or you know?
Okay, fair enough. I know for a fact that we
You
are...
forgot something.
Oh, we did we?
Yes.
What?
We go through the thing theologically. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what you're saying. You have a saying, though.
Alright.
Do we need to restart it?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you positive?
Yeah, 100%.
Are you absolutely positively sure?
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you positively sure you're absolutely positive?
Yeah,
Are
don't...
you sure you're positive?
Yeah, don't do... What? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back again to The Basement after 20 seconds, where we like to talk about things theologically, practically, and hilariously. We've already introduced ourselves. I don't know why we have to do it again, but, you know, I'm
Do we
Tristan.
have to restart again? I know.
No! This is not going to be the episode of restarts.
This is
No.
going to be the episode of restarting so many times that people get annoyed of my awesome thing that I took 40 minutes to make.
Yes, sorry about that. It's completely my bad. I absolutely should have said the tagline. But, you know, whatever. I'll remember next time to do it first try. But yeah, episode 8. It's been a wonderful week. I've been pretty busy. What about you?
Busy!
Yeah.
School, working at the corn maze. Also, speaking of the corn maze, if you are in the Walla Walla area, we need scarers. Show up there at the corn maze. You can look it up at 6 p.m. at the concession stand, and you too can look like me. Scary. Just kidding. You can be a scare.
Perfect. So, yeah. So, pretty busy. Been working hard. As a young adult, your life gets very full of things.
Working hard or hardly working.
That does seem to be the two switches that we have. So, but, you know, I hope everyone who's watching has had a great week as well. If not, we can pray for stuff if necessary, and yeah, just hopefully you guys have a great week. So, let's get into it. So, for today, we are continuing our discussion of the Book of Ruth, and thus far it has been pretty good. First chapter, we go over Ruth's very big decision to leave her home, leave her family, leave everything she's ever known, and dedicate herself to living for God with Naomi. And in the second chapter, we see a lot of Boaz, his character, and Boaz is a pretty cool guy. Very kind, very loving, takes care of his people, is very honored by all, and yeah, he's taken a liking to Ruth, being very kind to her and open, and very thankful for Ruth taking care of his mother-in-law, Naomi. And yeah, it's just been really cool to go through thus far. And we're going to pull more stuff out of it, of course. So, we should have it up, right?
Yes.
Alright. So we have the scripture up. Beautiful. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay. Oh, where? Oh.
Oh, I fixed the screen, so from this one, it's just down to the left.
Well, I have a problem. Where? My mouse.
It's on that screen.
Yeah, the mouse doesn't go this way. Oh,
There you go.
hey, there we go. Alright. Technical problems, people. Have technical solutions. We're doing good. Alright. Yeah, this is fun. Alright. We're going to read. You know what? We're going to read from the Christian Standard Bible today. Because that's what I have in front of me. And that's what we're going to read. Alright. Christian Standard Bible. I personally have a Christian Standard Bible. It's a study Bible.
I use ESV, and yeah, that's about all I use really.
Do you like ESV for any particular reason?
Yes.
Why?
Because I like it.
Okay, that's not a reason.
It's more like, what's the word? More exact. Like, it's like more direct, and it's like a translation kind of thing.
Gotcha. This Bible I personally got as a present from my parents, so it's actually pretty sentimental for me. So that's why I like this one. But I do have an NLT Bible as well, and that one has my name etched in it. So that's fun. All right, now we're going to start reading. So, Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi said to her, "My daughter, shouldn't I find security for you so that you will be taken care of?" She's talking about like Ruth finding another husband just because, you know, both of them are widows at this point. Shouldn't I find rest for you so that you will be taken care of? Now, isn't Boaz a relative? Haven't you been working with his female servants? I guess there's a time skip that's happened. Time skip. Anime reference. But you know what? Whatever. What?
Okay.
What? It's a thing!
Okay.
What? They do time skips. Like, they go... like, they end a season, and then they come back with a new season, and so much time has passed between...
They do that in a lot of things.
Yeah, but they
Not just
more specifically call it a time skip just because, like, animes tend to stick more to a timeline than, like, say, like, NCIS or, like, those kinds of shows.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Anyways, so they've skipped ahead like a few months or so. Haven't you been working with his female servants? This evening he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfumed oil, and wear your best clothes. Go down to the threshing floor and don't let the man know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, notice the place where he's lying. Go in, uncover his feet, and lie down. Then he will explain to you what you should do. Okay, Naomi. Alright. So, has anyone seen the movie Mulan? Because Naomi's trying to be a matchmaker at this point. And yeah, alright, this has definitely escalated since the last chapter.
Definitely.
For sure. First of all, Naomi's instructions. Well, first off, she's also very blunt. She's like, hey, you should be taken care of. You should find a husband. Boaz is our relative. He's a perfect guy. Now, we're not wasting any time here. And she tells Ruth to be like, alright, clean yourself up. Look nice. Basically, prepare yourself for a date. The best date ever. Prepare yourself. And, go down to the threshing floor. And the threshing floor is where they took the wheat.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, it's not wheat. They say it's barley. They say it's barley. I should be accurate.
Probably where they go from stalks of grain to just grain.
They beat the stalks on the ground, and then the seeds fall out, and then they pick up the seeds, and then
Nowadays, what they do is they use combines that basically do the same thing, just with cages and little things that rub together, and it rubs the grain until the grain falls through little mesh pieces into a container, and then it takes an auger and puts it into it.
Which those pieces of machinery cost about as much as like a really small house. Some of them.
More.
Oh, more. Oh my.
Way more. Millions.
More.
Millions, I tell you.
That's insane. Man, if only I could like be gifted a combine, then I could sell a combine, and then I could have a house.
Yeah.
I don't mind selling it for half price. I don't care. I'll give me a decent house. Oh my gosh.
Okay, here's so as of May of 2022, John Deere X9 1100 combine prices range from $670,000, $7,500,000 for used machines, and $900,000 to $1 million plus for new. As for most farm machinery, the difference in price is due to factors such as number of hours and combine has run.
That is nuts. Oh my gosh.
I think the X9 is actually kind of a small one.
No way.
Let's see.
No way. Wow, farmers are actually richer than we think they are.
Oh, it's not as small as I was thinking. This is an X9.
Oh.
Okay, the numbers for people who are farmers, they're the numbers look like they're rich, but then if you also look at the numbers again, you have to realize they're paying for their machine, they're paying for the people who are working for them, they're paying for the oil, they're paying for the truckers, they're paying for where the grain's going, they're having to pay back the royalties of the fields. So they're barely scraping by.
But they have so many assets.
Kind of. They have a lot of stuff, but every ounce of money that they get has to go back into it. They have to do repairs. They have to do this. They have to do that. They also, when after the harvest is like the only money that they make.
Oh.
So that's their
right.
money for their whole entire year.
Dang.
So make a crap ton of money during harvest. Yes, good. But then you have to make that stretch throughout the whole entire year, paying for spray for the chemicals for spraying the field.
Oh,
You have
wow.
to pay for the fuel for the tractor for when it's plowing, when it's tilling, when it's seeding, and you have to pay for the seeds. You have to pay, like, it's crazy. You have to pay for a lot of stuff. So on paper, yes, farmers may look rich, but they're nowhere near that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I stand corrected. My bad.
I say corrected.
Gosh dang it. I sit corrected once more. Oh my gosh. Anyways. And then Naomi... We'll go back to the scripture. And then Naomi, like, tells Ruth to take off his shoes and just lie down. Like, he's like, he is full on food and drink, and he's taking a nap. And Naomi's like, yeah, go make sure his feet are cold.
That's depressing.
And lie down. And I'm like, why? Why do you do that? I know it's been explained to me before, but I can't remember the significance behind that. We can look it up, and then it'll make much more sense. Ezra, you are our researcher. But if I remember correctly, it has something to do with, like, servitude, I think? But I'm not sure.
Thimbles for the theology. Alright, in the book of Ruth, we're told that a Bethlehem family left their town in the country of Israel to go to Moab during a famine. The sons married to Moabite women, but they and their father died in Moab. Naomi, the widow, and her two daughters-in-law were parting, but Ruth refused to leave Naomi and returned with her to Bethlehem to take care of her mother-in-law. She went to work in the fields, so she impressed Boaz, one of the owners of the fields that he encouraged her to work for him only, and rewarded her for her devotion to her mother-in-law, a near relative of his. Naomi instructed Ruth at harvest time to wait until the men were sleeping and quietly go to Boaz and put part of his covering over her feet and lay there. This was apparently a customary way of asking a man to provide protection of marriage. Boaz was impressed, as he says, because in his estimation she could have had her pick of younger men, rich or poor, but was not motivated by a desire for wealth or excitement. Rather, she was loyal to her mother-in-law and recognized that Boaz was a near relative, was the choice of integrity in the line of the law of Moses, which said that the near relative of a deceased man was to marry his widow and raise up children to his name. This was a way of ensuring that the land he had inherited from God remained in his family. As it turns out, the descendant of Ruth and Boaz was David, king of Israel. It was God who had engineered his coming together of two godly believers to produce the greatest king Israel ever had. It is unfortunate that some have suggested that Ruth uncovering Boaz's feet was a euphemism for sexual intercourse. The interpretation is totally contradictory to the whole tenor of this book. It is designed to show that the integrity and character of David's ancestors. No one would have thought that Ruth, having with Boaz, would show moral integrity.
So basically, she was just signaling to Boaz, like, hey, I
Need your protection.
I need your protection, and you're our relative. Would you please marry me? Basically,
Yeah.
is what she's asking. Which is kind of crazy that, that's a thing, and the men are cool with it.
Yeah.
Like, nowadays...
I don't feel like he was cool with it. I think it was more of like he understood what the...
Like, it was more of like, alright, this is, like, the mission. Like,
yeah. I think he was also understanding because he realized that she was relative.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just like, oh, this is some random person that wants to marry me. Like, I don't think that's how it would go.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be more like, oh, so my relative who her husband died, I guess I should go and support for her because that is what we do. That's like our way of respecting our family line or whatever. And land is important. Having stuff is important, I guess. But.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we're so picky when it comes to, like, who we marry and stuff. But, I mean, we have a very different culture.
Yeah.
Because we kind of have to be picky nowadays.
Yeah.
Back in those days, God was like, you guys marry within the Israelites and stuff. So, like, if you were an Israelite and you were with the Israelites, then you didn't have to be super picky.
Yeah.
But yeah, nowadays we just have so many people from so many different areas in, like, the United States that we have to make sure that we marry a godly wife, and for all the women, a godly husband. And, like, we have to definitely be more aware.
Yeah.
Like, there's not, like, anything about relatives or family lines that we are concerned about. Which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Let's continue on, shall we? Alright. Okay. Then he will explain to you what you should do. Boaz will explain to Ruth whatever Ruth should do. Alright. And then, so Ruth said to her, I will do everything you say, to Naomi. She went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law had charged her to do. After Boaz ate, drank, and was in good spirits, happy man, he went to lie down at the end of the pile of barley, and she came secretly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. At midnight, this man, he's sleeping in the middle of his field. Through the night, alright, that's kind of interesting.
He's in the middle of the field?
Yeah, he's, like, the threshing floor is, like, it's open. It's not...
Oh. Okay.
Which is weird. But
it's weird.
This is out in the open. And then at midnight, Boaz was startled, turned over, and there lying at his feet was a woman. So he asked, who are you? I would also ask that question.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I am Ruth, your servant, she replied. Take me under your wing, for you are a family redeemer. Now this family redeemer thing is very important. Other translations would call it a kinsman redeemer. Like, that's basically what we're talking about when it's like you're a relative and you take care of the wife of your cousin or your brother or whatever. You are now the kinsman redeemer, and you're able to redeem the family line, restore the family line, and this title of kinsman redeemer has been applied to Jesus, because we're all like God's children, and Jesus was the only one that could save us, and so he was our kinsman redeemer and won us back through his death on the cross to save his family line, which is pretty stinking cool to see it from that perspective as well. Yeah, it's cool to think that we're like sons and daughters of God, and not just like, ah, yes, you're my creations. I'll save you, I guess. You know, it's like sons and daughters means that he loves us all. Like we're family, like we are with him. Like kind of on the same level of like, not literally the same level because that would be crazy, but yeah, definitely the same level as far as like of loving us. So yeah, just pretty cool.
See, Senor.
I mean, what are your thoughts on this so far?
I think it's just cool that she had like, she was told to, like, she's learning who this guy is, and he's a respectable man, and so she's like, oh well, might as well. He has our family line. He knows that. He probably knows that I need protection, and so it's just cool that she's going to him for that.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you know, being, well, again, reference her being a foreigner in the land, she is completely associated herself with like Israelite culture and God, and she's like, she said to Naomi, like, without hesitation, I will do everything you say. Like, you know this better than I do, but also, we're living in your land. I'm gonna do what you tell me to do. Just being so submitted to the influence that Naomi has, and so submitted to, like, pretty much God in this case, of like, you're in this land, you now live under a different ruler.
Yeah.
Of like, and it references back to us, like, we're kind of in a new kingdom, and we're part of a new kingdom, we're under a different rule, because we accepted Jesus in our heart. Our ruler is no longer the devil or the world, or quote-unquote ourselves, when in reality we're not the rulers, we're just pseudo-rulers.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're under a new rule, and we have to show submission to that rule. Be like, alright God, whatever you ask of me, this is what I'm doing now. And that just shows like honor and respect. I mean, you chose God. You really have no excuse to say, like, oh yeah, I chose to be in your land, but I'm just gonna disobey all your rules and follow the rules of the land I once was in.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work at all. That disrespects and dishonors the one who gives you space in his kingdom to live and prosper in his land.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how like just the Bible is full of a lot of moments where like, oh, you're doing a great job. Oh no, you're not doing a good job. Let me correct that. Okay, now you're doing a good job. No, now you're needing to be corrected. Let me correct you. All right, no, wait, what? And it's very very repetitive, but it kind of just shows a theme of like, at first we're all honoring and submissive of God and respecting Him, but then as time goes on, people grow. They're like, oh, well, we don't need that, and then we come to ourselves, and then when you start worshiping yourself, and you have lots and lots of people who are doing that, then your city collapses, because a world without feet doesn't stand. And so the feet are God. We're like, God is our support that we stand on, and so if we don't have that, we fall.
Yeah. Very true. And yeah, I love how this story is like, yes, it's a romantic story, but also shows like us as Ruth and God as Boaz, being like, Ruth is a foreigner asking for help,
Mhm.
for protection,
Mhm.
and being submissive.
Mhm.
Boaz being kind and generous and just loving
Mhm.
people just in general for who they are, and like it's a very great love story that
Mhm.
reflects our love story with God, because technically we have a love story with God.
Yes.
He dies because he first loved us.
Mhm.
Oh wait, hold on. The verse goes, "We love because he first loved us."
Yes.
Like, this is more a story of love than it is a story of obedience.
Yes.
Because God is love. Like, he's not loving,
Mhm.
he is love,
Yes. He's the very definition of.
right? He's not obedience, because why would he? He has no one to be obedient to.
Yeah.
It's not a story of, like, rules and regulations.
Yeah.
It's a story of love. And sometimes love includes, actually, a decent amount of the time, love includes structure and boundaries and rules and regulations.
Yes.
Because we need to be protected
Mhm.
from certain things. And we should want to be protected rather than, like, throwing everything off ourselves,
Mhm.
throwing away the restraints, the chains, and being like, we're truly free, we will always be. And in reality, you're actually more tied up, bound, gagged, and thrown into prison than you ever were before.
Yeah.
After you abandon God, than when you were actually, like, his child.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's just really interesting. So, well, should we continue?
See, we shall.
Perfect. Alright. Okay, so calls Boaz family redeemer. Wow. Otherwise known as kinsman redeemer. Then he said,
May the Lord bless you, my daughter. You have shown more kindness now than before, because you have not pursued younger men, whether rich or poor. And now don't be afraid, my daughter. I will do for you whatever you say, since all the people in my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Yes, it is true that I am a family redeemer, but there is a redeemer closer than I am. Stay here tonight, and in the morning, if he wants to redeem you, that is good. Let him redeem you. But if he doesn't want to redeem you, as the Lord lives, I will. Now lie down until morning. So she lay down at his feet until morning, but got up while it was dark. Then Boaz says, Don't let it be known that a woman came up to the threshing floor. And he told Ruth, Bring the shawl you're wearing and hold it out. When she held it out, he shoveled 6 measures of barley into her shawl, and she went into the town. She went to her mother-in-law, Naomi, who asked her, What happened, my daughter? Then Ruth told her everything the man had done for her. She said, He gave me these 6 measures of barley because he said, Don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Naomi said, My daughter, wait until you find out how things go, for he won't rest until he resolves this today.
dang. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Don't go empty-handed. You need staff. He set you off good.
Yeah, no kidding. But he, like you said before in that one article where Boaz is impressed that she did not find a younger man.
Yeah.
But came to him as a kinsman redeemer. But he also says, since all the people in my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Which is crazy cool, because we know that Boaz is well respected and well honored. But now Boaz acknowledges that Ruth is well respected and well honored by the people of his town. Which is like, okay, awesome, marriage material. Oh my gosh, it's funny.
So I wanted to look at this. I just looked this up. So the 6 measures. I wanted to put that in perspective because
Right.
the Bible, we don't have a good understanding of what their measurements are
Mm-hmm.
unless we like compare it to something. So here's a little thing I just looked up. The introduction to the hardest working person I've ever known is actually let me find it. Okay. No, this is not it. Okay, I need to, never mind. Keep going back. I need to find the. This is it. 6 measures as it translates to 6 ephahs. Trying to figure out how much that is in modern terms difficult, at best. There is a variation between U.S. and British measurement systems. I was looking at consistent conversion measurements, and the closest lead then chose leaders. However, there are at least 6 different amounts given for an ephah: 7.7, 7.71, 2. What the? Okay, this is so weird how they number it. And 40.32 I. These translate somewhere liters between 1.31 and 6.87 bushels. Assuming barley in those times had approximately the same test weight, that means Ruth carried back somewhere between 63 and 300 pounds.
I'm gonna go with the 63.
Well, but if God was on her side.
I mean, what's realistic though? Like, I'm thinking, like, what's realistic? Because who knows how far she had to carry that?
Yeah.
And carrying like a bag of 100 pounds of like garbanzo beans is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I doubt she carried 300 pounds.
Probably 6 armfuls, is what you're saying.
Okay. 6 armfuls?
Yeah, something about that.
Yeah. And if it's in a shawl, why? There's no way that if it's in a shawl, it'd be 300 pounds.
I've carried wheat before. When we had a tarp that was just barely full, that thing was so freaking heavy. That was like.
Yeah, but it's a shawl.
Yeah,
it's a piece of clothing.
Yeah. Hey, they could have had some pretty epic sewers back then. They can sew wheat. They can sew clothes too.
Oh my gosh. That's funny. But yeah, both of these people are noble character too, and apparently very strong.
Very strong.
As we have just learned.
They might be Russian. Very strong.
Gosh, but yeah, they're both noble character. They're both very great people. And Boaz is like, cool. Yes, I am family redeemer, but there's something we need to clear up first. There's some small thing that, in order for this to be right, needs to be cleared up.
Okay.
And he says that there's a redeemer closer in relation to them than Boaz. So he's like, in order for me to be your kinsman redeemer, I need to make sure that that person does not want to be or can't be. Which is like, he's trying to be honorable here. He's like, I'm not going to skip a line here in the order of how things should be and just get on with it. Just, like, I'm going to take the necessary steps in order to make sure that this is all done right.
Mm-hmm.
In the last sentence of this chapter, Naomi is like, and he will make sure that it will be done today. And he was like, yeah, Naomi says, my daughter, wait until you find out how things go, for he won't rest unless he resolves this today. It's like, this man gets up in the morning and he gets stuff done. It's like, this guy knows what he's doing and knows what's right and will stop at nothing to make sure it happens. It's like, that's so cool. Like, if I was back in the day in ancient Israel, Boaz would be a guy I would look up to and be like, I want to be like that.
It's funny though, like if you, like you know how back then, information was not carried very fast. So this whole story, you wouldn't hear about it for like unless you were like relatives,
Right.
you wouldn't hear about it for a few years.
Well, relatives, or like, I'm like just thinking of like, if he shows his character like right here in these situations, like imagine his character in like with his workers
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. Like he's probably working twice as hard as his other workers.
With more of a cheerful attitude than them as well.
Probably. And just like he's out there, and I'd be like, this is a great place to work. I love this. If I was one of the workers, like this guy seems awesome, and he's honorable. He wants to do the right thing. Doesn't want to compromise.
Mhm.
And he also wants to make sure that no bad report escapes.
Rapport, yes.
Because nothing that happened here was a sin,
Mhm.
but he did not want people to get the wrong idea.
Mhm.
He did not want people to get the wrong idea. He says, "Don't let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. Told Ruth, bring the shawl you're wearing and hold it out." So, she's trying to leave while it's still dark so then people don't get the wrong idea.
Mhm.
And Boaz is like, don't tell anybody. Because then people will be like, oh, some bad business happened that night.
Mhm.
And,
They'll start assuming things that didn't happen.
right, assuming things that didn't actually happen. So, this man is not only, like, gonna get out of bed in the morning to get stuff done, but he's also wise.
And Ruth is in the Old Testament, right?
Uh-huh.
Are they still under Levitical law?
Yeah.
So then that was pretty. That was a thing back then too, because like Levitical law, and what part of Leviticus was like something about if a woman, like, isn't there something that are like in the Levitical law that are against it if they start assuming, like they would be breaking some of those laws.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things about, like, sexual immorality.
Yeah.
And pretty much all of them ended up in death.
Yes.
And so, in order for nobody dying, Boaz is like, we don't want people to have the wrong idea and cause trouble where there is none. So, leave while it's still dark, and don't tell anybody what happened.
Mhm.
Just because he's using wisdom here, not because nothing wrong did happen, but just because he's like he knows the human mind.
Yeah.
So it's like this guy is like more and more we get to see aspects of Boaz that is like he's the right guy for this job.
Mhm.
He's already protecting Ruth by telling her to stay quiet about these things,
Mhm.
and he's providing, he's kind, he's loving,
Mhm.
doesn't show favoritism. He's like, this guy is showing more and more how godly he really is, how close he is in relationship to the Lord.
Okay.
He's just like, this is so cool.
So this is from Crossway. I'm gonna read the passive thing and then read what the notes they have on it. So it says then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, should I not seek the rest for you that may be well with you? It is not Boaz our relative with whose young women you were. He is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash therefore and anoint yourself, and put on your cloak and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies. Go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do." And she replied, all that you say I will do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. He said, "Who are you?" She answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer." So then this is called the risks of the threshing floor. A number of weeks likely separate Ruth and Boaz's initial encounter in Ruth chapter 2 at the threshing floor encounter. In Ruth chapter 3, Ruth and Naomi arrive in Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest, and Ruth keeps gleaning in Boaz's field until the end of barley and wheat harvests. Ruth 2:23. The two harvests together probably involve about 2 months from beginning to end. The scene in question transpires when the harvested barley brought to the threshing floor is winnowed. Winnowing barley involves tossing it into the evening breeze with a winnowing fork to separate the stalk from the chaff and the straw, which the wind blows away. Ruth 3:2, Isaiah 41:15-16. Naomi's plan initiates this scene. Events through Ruth will play the lead role in executing that plan. Naomi first asks a rhetorical question, articulating her interest to seek rest and good for her daughter. Naomi aims to help bring about the very blessing she prayed for on behalf of her daughters-in-law. Cf. Ruth 1:8-9. Naomi's second rhetorical question specifies the means by which she envisions the procuring of Ruth's security through Boaz, our relative, not my relative. Cf. Ruth. What does CF mean? A reference? No, I don't know. Whatever. Ruth 2:20, who has enabled Ruth to glean alongside his female workers. That Boaz is a relative means he might exercise the redemption right and buy Naomi's land for reasons not explained. Exercising this right also entails marrying Ruth. Naomi then clarifies her plan, which involves a number of risks for Ruth. Having made herself attractive to signal her marital ability, Ruth must brave the darkness by going stealthily down to the threshing floor and remain hidden until the opportune time. Once Boaz enjoys a good harvest time meal and falls asleep, guarding the grain, Ruth must approach him quietly, lift the blanket at his feet to expose them to the evening breeze, lie down at the place of his feet and wait for the cold air to awaken him. Then, when Boaz awakens, Ruth should follow his instructions, which Naomi expected him to give. Several priorities converge in Naomi's strategy. In line with her marital role, Ruth 1:8, she seeks marital security and stability for Ruth. She therefore designs a private encounter between Ruth and Boaz, hoping it will prompt Boaz to marry Ruth. Even though Naomi's plan fought with risk, however, it avoids moral and public disgraces. She devises, for example, for Ruth to engage Boaz in an intimate, candid dialogue about marriage, but without improperly touching him, only his blanket, or initiating open public discourse with him, because Naomi is confident in Boaz's righteous character, which is good, I guess. Righteous character, yeah. Ruth 2:1. Her plan, though decidedly risky, is neither reckless or risque. Not all agree about how to interpret the characterization of Naomi 3:1-4. Does Naomi's plan negatively illustrate maternal manipulation and ungodly pragmatism, Genesis 16:1-6, or does Naomi's plan positively illustrate godly shrewdness? That is, her bold initiative, showing the compatibility of faithful human initiative, agency, and divine providence. The latter view, it seems better in the whole book context. Naomi's plotting expresses a growing hopefulness in her outlook progression from Ruth 1:20 to 1:21 to 2:19 to 2:20 and 3:1-4. Ruth complies with Naomi's instructions. While Ruth undoubtedly desires rest for herself, she could pursue different men, which Boaz plainly acknowledges, Ruth 3:10. But Ruth's love for and desire to provide for her bereft mother-in-law motivates her pursuit of Boaz by willingly risking her own reputation and safety to propose to him. This young Moabitess continues epitomizing self-sacrificial covenant loyalty. In meekness, she counts Naomi's interest as more significant than her own. Carrying out the plan. Having verbally complied with her mother-in-law mother-in-law's commands. Ruth now diligently follows them. She goes down to the threshing floor and waits shrouded in secrecy, just as Naomi envisaged. Boaz lies down with a contented heart after enjoying his harvest. Ruth then comes softly to Boaz, pulls the blanket to expose his feet to the evening breeze, and lies down. The stage is now set for a dramatic turning point. Under the cover of darkness, Ruth awaits Boaz's awakening. Darkness, hiddenness, and seclusion obscure recognition and heighten dramatic suspense at midnight, evening's darkest point. Boaz awakens, disconcerted, presumably wincing at the cold breeze blowing over his feet. When he repositions himself, likely to adjust the blanket for warmth, he is further disconcerted by discovering a woman lying at his feet. He calls the woman to disclose her identity. Ruth takes full advantage of this crucial moment of disclosure, more than merely presenting herself as eligible for marriage. She initiates that she ought to marry. She states her name, I am Ruth, rank, your servant, request, spread your wings or corner's edge of this garment over your servant, and rationale, for you are a redeemer. Ruth is summoning Boaz to provide protection and security through marriage. By alluding to Boaz's prior blessing, Ruth 2:12, Ruth petitions Boaz to become the Lord's human instrument of fulfilling that previous blessing that is having taken refuge under the Lord's wings. Ruth now entreats Boaz to spread his wings over her in marriage as the Lord's agent, undoubtedly influenced by Naomi, Ruth 2:20, and Ruth 3:2. But Ruth appeals to the kinship principles underlying the instructions of redemption of the Leviticus 25 to 24 to 55, and Levirate marriage, Deuteronomy 25:5 and 10. There's a pledge of redemption, and then love shines in the darkness, and there's a lot more, but it was just the fact that it was kind of sketchy. It could have been sketchy, but it wasn't, because of the way they planned it.
Right. Which, I mean, I'd have to say Naomi has wisdom in this.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how this article alluded to the fact that Naomi started to see hope again.
Yeah.
Because when she came back, she was like, "Don't call me Naomi.
Yeah.
Call me one who mourns or grief or whatever." And like the book never mentions that name again, just continues to call her Naomi, probably alluding to the fact that Naomi does still stay as Naomi.
Yeah.
And seeks hope and finds life again. Which is pretty cool, because at the end of this chapter, she gets to see the 6 measures of barley, and Naomi is like, when she tells Ruth, like, "Hey, wait until you find out how things go, for you won't rest until your results is today." This is like a hopeful moment of like, things are gonna happen. This is good. Just wait.
Almost to the.
Right?
Almost there.
Almost there, and you're just going to plateau at the top. Just, you stay at the top, and you're good.
And then you have your resolution.
Right? It's like, it's at the climax, and it's so good, and Naomi's hopeful, again, that her family line can continue on. She's also going to be provided for. Doesn't have to worry about it. And she probably is thinking, like, maybe some grandchildren, too. And, like, get to help them out, too. Like, grandmothers have, like, that motherly instinct that's changed a little bit for their grandchildren. But
they spoil them.
Yeah, they spoil them. They enjoy their grandchildren. But yeah, that's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool chapter to read out of. There's a bunch of context stuff for sure. A lot of customs and just cultural things that we needed to understand in order to get an accurate view of what's happening. Because otherwise, yeah, you can view it as like, oh, This is interesting.
Sounds a little risque.
Alright. Spill the tea, why don't you? But, in reality, it's not. It's actually a very covenantal, very honorable thing that was done.
Yeah.
And then chapter 4 is the last chapter of Ruth. And that we'll get to next time. It'll be the conclusion of our reading of Ruth. And yeah, we'll get to see what finally happens.
Yeesh.
What happens at the very end. But yeah, that has been great. Man, I wish I had character like Boaz. That'd be so great.
Be like Boaz.
Be
Don't
like
be
Boaz.
a lazy
Oh my god.
one.
Keep bringing that up.
I think it's funny.
Yeah. In reference to God, be like Ruth. In reference to other people, be like Boaz.
Yes.
But, yeah. Alright, well, it's been a great episode.
And now we pray us out.
We pray us out? Or
I
you?
do.
Yeah, you pray us out.
Yes. Alright. Remove your hat if you're watching, because that's how you pray. And we're live, so you have to respect it. Dear God, thank you for another eye-opening scripture that we got to read and just hear how you have been working in and through Ruth in this story. Show us how to be diligent in listening to you, like Ruth, and being able to follow your plan, even though maybe sometimes it's confusing. Just help us to just in terms of people entering our lives, help us to be like Boaz, where we're going with the plan, but we're having respect and integrity alongside of us. I just pray that you bless the rest of our weeks and the starting of this next week, and just keep us safe till this next week. In your name we all said, Amen.
Amen. Alright, thanks for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week for
Yes.
chapter 4 of Ruth, episode 9 of The Basement.
And he's not going to forget the intro.
Yeah, I'm not going to forget the intro next time. It's not going to take 2 takes. It's only going to take 1.
2 takes, aka just restarting the stream.
Right? Okay, starting the stream. Alright, well, see you later, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, good evening, and good day. Maybe. Alright, well.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
The Truman Show, that's, if anyone remembers that. Pretty good show, by the way. Alright. Alright. What? There we go.
We need to transition now. Oh, look at there, it's the basement.
Yeah! Yeah, let's go. Alright. We're leaving for good now. Bye.